What's up? This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I am your host, Sean Dustin. Today, we have a different guest, a different kind of guest. It's a politician, per se. I've had one on Spike Cohen on recently, and now I've met another individual named Nickolas Wildstar. Nickolas ran for election for the mayoral election in Fresno in March of 2020. He lost in the primary, but that didn't stop him. He still wants to go forward and do his best to try and fix the broken mess that we have in our political system. And I got to listen to Nickolas or Governor Wildstar. How's that sound? Like that? Like the way that sounds?
Oh, yeah.
I got to hear him in one of my Zoom meetings that I go to on Sundays, and I liked what he had to say. So I asked him to be on the show, and so here we are. How's it going, Nickolas?
It's going incredible, Sean. Thank you again for having me on the show. I truly appreciate having the chance to be heard by your audience,
Hey, thank you. I'm the one that doesn't have much to do. Everybody else seems to be busy. So if you can make time to come talk to me, then I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your track into politics.
Well, I have been a decade-long community activist. I've been involved in protests ranging from police shootings to censorship by mainstream media to women's rights. So I've kind of been involved in a little bit of everything. And like I said, I've marched along and protested alongside people of my community. I've also been involved in community cleanup projects and feeding the homeless. So I stay involved as much as possible in my own neighborhood and in helping those around me, because I do feel like it's up to we, the people, to actually improve the standards of our own community. So can't be reliant upon politicians. Unfortunately, that's the misunderstanding when people go to vote in these elected officials. Rarely ever do we actually see them be involved on the grassroots level or be involved with the community at all. So that's why I took it upon myself to run for governor, as I did in 2014. I ran as an independent candidate and was able to gather about 12 votes since I was a write-in candidate. But I did run again in 2018, and was endorsed by the Libertarian Party. So with that endorsement and me running as a Libertarian, I was able to gather almost 12,000 votes. And I'm hoping to add a few more zeros to that this time around in my run for governor of California in 2022.
That's great. Somebody who's been involved in my own sort of politics with my own union, I totally understand. Sometimes it will take 3-4 times for people to start. Oh, that guy. You know what I mean? Okay, I know who that is. Unfortunate for me, I just didn't like the way that it tasted, so I was like, I don't want to do it again. I'm good. So I opted not to go for any more in my own union. But that doesn't mean that there's not something to be said for not giving up. Not allowing the people that will inherently attack you. For whatever reason, because politics is a dirty game, right?
It really is.
And I experienced that in mine, and it was, I was like, damn. We have an idea of what we look like to other people, but we rarely know what other people are thinking about us, right?
Yeah.
And so when you think that you're like, for me, I thought that I would get way more votes than I did. It's really kind of a gut check, right?
Absolutely. You put yourself out there, you're pretty much, laying your life on the line, so to speak, especially when running as a public official, because there are so many entities and organizations against you achieving that, especially when you're someone that challenges the establishment, the system. And I definitely am all of that and then some. So it's a matter of you persevering. And I believe in the old saying of, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and try again if you happen to fail. I mean, when pursuing our dreams, we tell our kids to continue to do whatever you need to do to achieve what you want in life. And I think we give up on that as adults. At some point, we get slapped with realization of, I guess, the real world, and we stop pursuing our dreams. Politics was never my dream. I actually moved to California to pursue a career in music, and that actually led me to politics, just seeing the inner workings of the music industry and the dictatorial practices that happen towards musicians, and them wanting to have creative control and powers that be, having influence over what type of music is actually provided to the public. And just again started to see those same correlations to our political atmosphere and our elected representatives. We put them in positions of power to help out the people of the community, but again, rarely do we see that.
No, we don't. A lot of it has to do with the fact that our reality is inverted. What we think is the way things are, really they aren't. We think, a perfect example is our monetary system. When everybody's screaming taxpayer funded, it doesn't work that way. Our currency system isn't set up that way. So when you say taxpayer funded, the money never gets collected and then circles back around. That's not how it happens. Money is created in the fiat currency system, right? And so governments just create to spend as they need. That's why they're able to give trillions of dollars to their corporate donors, because they can create that money and they just spend it to them instead of putting it the way that it should go, which is through the American people and infused into the economy. They run it through Wall Street so they can turn around and loan it out and make the interest on it, instead of truly helping the people.
Exactly. And it's sad that a lot of people that claim to be financially, literate and have the understanding of economics don't even take into accordance as to where our money comes from. Like you said, it's a fiat currency. We're borrowing that money from a private company, the Federal Reserve, which is no more federal than Federal Express. But yet we borrow the paper money from them that isn't backed by anything. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by silver. It's not backed by anything valuable other than our blood, sweat, and tears, the labor that we put into creating it. So the government actually borrows this money from the Federal Reserve, like you said, siphon it through Wall Street to try to maximize on the dollar and use it as investment opportunities to put money in their own pockets, all the while collecting, income taxes and sales taxes and property taxes from we the people to so-called pay for public services that we aren't even able to utilize. I mean, even right now during this pandemic panic, schools are shut down. You can't send your kids to school. Even though you're paying for schools. Are you going to get a tax refund? You're paying for car registration fees, even though the DMV is backed up. So, I mean, all of our money, you're paying for parks. You're getting banned out of parks and beaches and public places. So they've been taking our money and they've been mismanaging it, misappropriating it, embezzling it, and doing everything with it other than improving our community. So we definitely need to bring an end to it. That's why one of the things that I'm proposing to do once I am elected governor is to create a resource-backed state-issued currency. This will actually compete with the federal dollar, the Federal Reserve note, the American dollar, and hopefully we'll put it to shame as far as value, because when you come to the state of California, you'll have an opportunity to convert your American dollars to California dollars and be able to buy more. Buying power is what will lift us out of poverty, not more borrowing and spending from a private company. So Also, one of the things that I would like to do is create a People's Bank of California, which will allow the people of California to actually be in charge of their own financial institutions. So if you have cryptocurrency, if you have gold or silver and you want to trade that, you'll be able to do so at the People's Bank of California. If you're in the cannabis industry and are unable to do any banking with any of the major banking institutions because of their regulations, you'll be able to do that, invest into the People's Bank of California. And also those people that are looking for small business loans and get turned away by the major banks, they'll be able to get interest-free loans from the People's Bank of California. So these are ways that I feel like once created would definitely make the economy here in California stronger and more independent.
Yeah, I like what I hear. I like what I hear for sure.
All right.
It sounds like you've actually done some thinking about the problems. And I recall where we met. It was in a Cal Exit group meeting, a Zoom meeting, and I was invited there. I'd met them through another mutual friend, and I've always. It's not the first time that I've heard of it, and I think that seceding from the union, I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, if it's a viable thing, you know what I mean, and we're not really getting the kind of representation that we're paying for,
Exactly.
through our federal government, through any of our state elected officials, really. Newsom, I mean, he's a great looking guy, he can charm a room, but I mean, what is he really doing?
Exactly.
Well,
there's more to me than just a pretty face. I mean, I'm a pretty attractive fellow. Also, my wife would definitely say that, so I gotta slip that comment in to her defense as well as mine. But I believe there should be more to a character, especially to your character, especially if you're going to serve as a public representative, other than just being a stuffed suit and be able to say the right things. You got to be a person of character, a person of substance, and that's exactly what I am. And my work with Cal Exit will definitely prove that. I've been a long time proponent of the Cal Exit movement ever since I've heard about it. Also, the state of Jefferson, and the 6 States California initiative, which actually gained a bit of traction over the last few years, but ended up fizzling out. But Cal Exit is still going strong and is pushing for California independence, which I see as being a viable solution also to many of the shortcomings of the state. I mean, California is the sixth largest economy in the world. No reason why it should not be the first. What's preventing it from doing so is lots of taxation, lots of regulation, and lots of government red tape that prevents innovation and the prosperity of the average working person. And with my work with Cal Exit, I'm working with them on reintroducing legislation such as AB 392, which is a bill. It's called the Stephon Clark Law, which Gavin Newsom signed into law last summer, which is supposed to prevent police from using excessive force. Yet we haven't seen that happen much here in the state. There's been over 150, I believe, officer-involved shootings with almost next to no accountability for the officers involved. There hasn't been any end to qualified immunity, no end to the Police Bill of Rights, all of which I will do once elected, and of course bring some accountability to those public officials that are meant to protect and serve the people of our community. So I'm working with Yes California to reintroduce AB 392 and to also push for secession if we are unable to get the government on board with what it is that we want. I mean, even what I was stating about creating the People's Bank of California, if we have federal regulations and federal laws preventing us from creating that, especially when it comes to the cannabis industry being able to bank with us, then we'll again secede so we can have that freedom to do as we please.
Yeah, I agree. And to go into a little bit into the cannabis part of that, I mean, there's huge upside on a commodity. I mean, really, that's what cannabis is. It's like corn. You know, it's a commodity that
it's a
has
cash
many
crop.
different uses. Yeah, well, yeah, it's a cash crop, but I mean, it has many different uses. I mean, from clothing to rope to oil. Yeah, heating oils. That's what they used to use for heating oils and lights and stuff like that back in the day. I mean, it's got a number of different uses. Not to mention all of the medicinal values that it has. I'm a huge proponent for cannabis.
Right.
Psilocybin as a tool for PTSD and mental health. I actually take. I haven't in a while, but I take. I would microdose. You know, like 0.3 of a gram of psilocybin instead of like taking Zoloft or any of those other things. And it doesn't get you high. It's just it's just enough right before you would feel it, and it gives you all the benefits of it without all the other stuff that goes along with it. And you can do that with THC as well. You can microdose that too.
Absolutely. I mean, all of them have medical benefits, and even now, you know, MDMA, Molly, is being prescribed to military veterans for PTSD, for them suffering PTSD. So it definitely has the opportunity to become a flourishing industry. And when we talk about cannabis, we're not only talking about marijuana, the weed that gets you high, but we're also talking about the hemp industry, which is a great creator of wealth. And like you said, those different resources like clothing and wood, so we can build homes, and oil to actually power them, and paper. I mean, there's so many vast uses of it. And even Henry Ford, Ford Cars, was attempting to create a car ran on hemp. So with the California governor now, Governor Newsom, pretty much banning the sale of gas-powered cars by the year 2035 in the state of California, that would be a great window of opportunity for more development of different types of vehicles to be created. Hemp-powered cars would be incredible. So my goal is to decriminalize all substances, use of substances. Like you said, you microdosed with psilocybins before. Imagine being able to go into CVS and consult a physician and be prescribed that over the counter. I mean, it would be much safer. It would be probably cheaper. And it would eliminate the black market, the criminal activity that actually happens from it. I mean, it's like people don't remember history, so you got to remind them, like Prohibition, when they banned the sale of alcohol, it created, criminals like Al Capone and the flourishment of, criminal industry. You take that away, take away the prohibition. Now you have an opportunity for innovation, and now people are able to buy alcohol at stores, and due to less regulation, you actually have creation of craft beers, which is another benefit of less regulation and less government being involved in personal choices of human beings, of adults. And for those people that are afraid that, if we decriminalize substances, that kids will be able to have access to them, and, violence will run rampant in the streets, they're not taken into accordance history. And as I said, with the decriminalization of it, we're actually reducing the amount of violence revolving around the sale of those type of substances.
Yeah, that sounds good. One of the things that I was talking as far as public safety, let's talk a little bit about that. In some of the groups that I've been in and some of the talks that I've had with people, in my opinion, the number one public safety issue in my experience and my opinion is untreated trauma. And when I talk about untreated trauma, I mean people who have had traumatic experiences, sexual, molestation, all those type of things that cause people to act out, causes addiction,
Right.
drug abuse, hypersexual behavior, which unwanted pregnancies, abortions, all of these negative things are all symptoms of untreated trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how would you address that coming in the kind of like era that we're in right now, where it's just the police officers are not trained to deal with that as a mental health issue? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, I definitely feel as if there needs to be some reorganization with our law enforcement as a whole. So, with that reform will come a creation of mental health response teams. And instead of sending out police officers to respond to a mental health situation, we're going to be sending out mental health professionals, people that are actually trained and have experience in helping people that may be dealing with the mental health issue, and take away again that threat of violence that seems to be there if people won't comply. I mean, I read a recent news article where a person was deaf and the officer didn't know and physically assaulted the person because they weren't responding to his orders. So the demand for change is definitely there, especially with the growing demands in the Black community for criminal justice reform. I mean, instead of sending out these police officers again, we'll be responding with mental health professionals and give them an opportunity to actually provide that assistance, or nonprofit organizations, NGOs, churches, people of the community, to get involved and actually do something to help as well, because it is a societal issue, and if we can address it properly, we can reduce it. I feel like there needs to be development of more counseling centers. There hasn't been any comprehensive changes to the mental health industry in California in over a decade. I mean, psychiatrists right now are withering down because the focus right now on educating our youth is on science, technology, electronics and manufacturing. So if we can move away from the STEM model, provide more access to people to become skilled as a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a mental health professional altogether, then that'll give them a different line of industry and a different profession to hopefully pursue, if we give them the resources to do so and let them know the need is there.
That's an excellent answer. Another one that I have here is,
if I may add to that, I hate to interrupt, but you mentioned also the sexual abuse issue. One thing that I do plan on doing as well, which seems to be very controversial, is decriminalizing sex work, and allowing the professionals involved in the sex industry to be able to, do what they do and provide a service to people. It's a service that's, there, and the demand is there. And as long as consenting adults agree to that transactional service, then who are we to judge them? By doing so, you're also able to reduce the amount of human trafficking, whether it be labor trafficking, sex trafficking, child sex trafficking. You be able to have police officers now focus on going after those criminals and doing stings and operations to actually reduce the impact of human trafficking here in the state of California, which is creeping up high as well.
Yeah, I had some stats ran by me by one of my old roommate, and he said that in my area, it's pretty up there as far as, because we have ports like the Port of Stockton, the port over here, in right behind me, and they get smuggled in and out through those areas. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it's becoming more known now. So when you talk about human trafficking and all the stuff that happens with children and some of that stuff, I mean, people aren't tuning out anymore. They're starting to tune in and go, what? For a long time that didn't happen. You would never even hear anybody talking about this kind of stuff.
But if they aren't considering what I'm talking about, then they truly do not want to help our kids. I feel like we need to be brave adults by letting other adults choose to do what they please to do. As long as it's not hurting me or anyone else, let them do as they choose. And if they want to, employ a sex worker for an exchange, a transactional exchange, so be it. Again, it would allow the environment to be safer, to where now if there is an issue, that sex worker can, report something that's happening, something criminal that's happening. Here in Fresno, where I live, I actually read about it, a story, because Fresno has started to move towards decriminalizing sex work activity. And because they were able to do so, they were able to crack down on a house where a guy had, I believe, 15 women there, holding them there against their will. So, but because they were told that, they can come to the police safely and they will be protected, they were able to go to them and make this report, because like you pointed out, a lot of them have mental health issues. They may have been groomed into this at a young age. They may have a substance abuse issue that is now being, remedied by the pimp or whoever the case may be, So there's different facets, and we can't walk into the situation with a one-size-fits-all type of solution, because it just simply does not apply.
Yeah, and the model, of incarcerate, it doesn't help. It's just putting more trauma into the lives of people that need help, not hinder.
Exactly. And one thing about me is I do plan on being tough as hell on crime. I mean, you're not going to want to go to jail in California. It's going to be an awful experience for you. I'm going to guarantee that. That way, if you do a crime, you're going to think twice about ever doing that crime ever again. And if you want to, and you just are a criminal-minded person, you're not going to want to do that in the state of California. I mean, there's a way to outfit the prisons to have them be a deterrent. That's why you have places like the Gulag, which is known as being one of those places in the world that you don't want to do wrong, or else you may not ever see the light of day ever again. I think that in itself will instill the fear in criminals and letting them know that, they may want to get on the right path. I do also plan on, getting rid of some of these gun laws, restrictive gun laws on gun owners and legal gun owners, and just we the people of the state. We have the constitutional right to bear arms, and I will reinstate that.
All right. Yeah, man, I like everything you're saying. It sounds good. There was one thing that I just had on the tip of my tongue, man. What was it?
I apologize.
No. It's not a big deal at all. It had to do with, God, I can't remember.
If it comes back to you, just go ahead and spit it out at any time.
Yeah. Oh, there it was. I got it. So the police unions and the prison unions, they have a lot of power in the state of California. Okay. Part of that AB, was it 237 that you're talking about?
AB 392.
AB 392. Is that the one that has to do with the which one was it that they, like, the police union and the prison union, they're the ones that had the most money into the opposition for legalization of marijuana in the state of California.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of power.
Oh, yeah.
There is 30,000 correctional officers, and they pay $100 a month. And that's, or no, I think they pay $100 per paycheck to them, something like that. So it's like $3 million every.
Oh,
like,
my God. Yeah.
They have so much money. And I just got in contact. I just interviewed actually earlier before you the guy that wrote the book, The Green Wall, DJ Vodnik, and the Green Wall is about the prison guards that form their own gang in there, and basically, were doing whatever they wanted to the inmates and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to him, and he was saying, that a lot of the reason why you can't get any kind of rehabilitation in the prison system is because of the correctional officer union.
Right.
They don't allow anything. Anything that you try to do, they lobby against it. Do you plan to rein that in a little bit and try to get some more control over the power that they have?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, I'm not backed by police unions, and I'm not receiving any campaign donations from police unions. If I were to receive any campaign donations from law enforcement, it would be by individuals themselves, choosing to make that contribution. But the organizations themselves have definitely proven to be criminal, which is why I will be moving to disband them altogether. I don't believe that creates any more safety or security for people of the community. They also have too much lobbying power to, like you said, prevent certain bills from being passed. And those are bills and policies being supported by the people of the community, but they can instantly be shot down, like the AB 392 bill that I had brought up, is because police unions had lobbied against it so much that the bill got so watered down that it pretty much has been rendered ineffective, rendered useless. And Black Lives Matter, one of the first people that actually introduced it, Patrice Cullors, a founder of Black Lives Matter, was an author of the bill. Black Lives Matter ended up backing out of supporting the bill altogether. So did the family of Stephon Clark, who the bill is named after. Stephon Clark was a 22-year-old black man that was shot and killed in his grandparents' backyard for having a cell phone in his hand when police officers thought it was a gun. So the family itself, themselves, backed out of supporting the bill, as well as Black Lives Matter, who again originally authored the bill and supported the bill. And the reason being was because the police unions just had too much power, and legislators, mainly Democrats here in the state of California, chose to write it to where it was more defensive of them and those unions. So I definitely will be reviewing and repealing many laws immediately once I take office.
That sounds good. I like that. We have so the movie The 13th, about the 13th Amendment that was on Netflix. It I think in the end part of it, it highlighted a company called ALEC, that basically writes legislation for politicians,
right? So
they don't have to do their own work. And, it's kind of like that's, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Let us write this legislation. And it's really what we want. Exactly. We're giving you our orders, and we're writing them, and we're writing the law that we want passed, and we're giving you money and all this other stuff for that. Mm-hmm. Correctional, the CCA system that they mentioned in that movie, the Correctional Corporations of America. I actually had the displeasure of going to a CCA when I was in transit from North Las Vegas, from my paroled out of my state sentence, and then was going straight into my federal sentence. And I went down through there, and There was 9 prisons in this Florence, Arizona, where we stopped, and the whole town was just nothing but prisons. There was 11 total, but there was 9 CCAs in that area.
Wow.
I mean, I don't think that there's any coincidence, or I think they all probably coincide. The introduction to crack into the communities, which we all know was done, by our own government, pretty much, and then the '94 crime bill, and then also the privatization of prisons.
Right.
I mean, all of those things went hand in hand for one purpose, and I don't understand why people don't understand how nefarious our government really is.
Very much so, especially when it comes to profiteering and off of the labor force, the prisoners. They use them pretty much as free labor. I'm not against privatized prisons. I believe they definitely are a benefit to taxpayers because they will create the correctional facility. They will house the prisoners. And I believe that, again, if we can separate the two, the legislative body, like you said, no longer work with ALEC, no longer allow them to push legislation that's going to have mandatory sentences, that's going to add longer sentences to nonviolent offenders. I mean, one of the things that I do plan on doing also in this review and repeal deal is to release nonviolent offenders, especially if they've been discovered to not be a threat to society. If you were selling weed or using, whatever substance of choice, then there isn't any reason why you should be in jail. You should be getting some sort of a counseling, and if that's your choice to do so, we can't be forcing people to deal with their addictive behaviors. That should be something that they should take responsibility upon themselves to do. Now, if they're causing a threat to other people because of those addictive behaviors, that's when, again, those services and resources will be made available to them, but it should be their choice. But as far as private prisons, the incentive there is that they're working with legislators, they're working with the law enforcement agency, the criminal justice system, to make sure that they're profiting off of having more people arrested for crimes that they shouldn't be in jail for. So that's one of the things that we definitely need to reverse, and what I will definitely do once elected governor. And as I said, those state prisons, you won't want to go to because they will be outfitted in a way to where you're not going to want to be there. So if you don't want to, end up in the state prison and have to suffer through that, or end up in a private prison where you're working for pennies on the dollar, then just don't do a crime.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you think that 5 years should be the max that any drug offender should ever have to serve?
Not at all. I don't think there should be any maximum or minimum penalties involved in any substance use. I believe that, again, if our criminal justice system had these provisions removed, these policies removed, then it would allow the judicial officer, the judge, and the jury to come up with a sentence that is fair, more fair. Now, if the individual is seen as being a threat to society because of their substance use, then that's when, again, the offer of rehabilitation through one of these counseling centers or drug addiction facilities becomes available. But if we allow that to be created and provided to the community as an offer from a nonprofit organization, then they're the ones taking the liability upon themselves to assist that individual. Why is it that rich people they have a drug addiction, Justin Bieber or Britney Spears or somebody like that, Kanye West, a mental health issue, they can avoid any type of jail time whatsoever, but can go straight into one of these facilities, get the treatment that they need, and then be back out in the world, being a contributing member of society. That's the type of rehabilitation that we need to be providing for every person, no matter how much income that you're creating.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, in my opinion, like I'm in the process of getting a nonprofit myself for Reentry. Formerly incarcerated, coming out of prisons and back into society. I want to help in the reentry effort, but I want to do it a little bit differently, because in my experience, for my own self, going through my own incarceration, that reentry needs to start from the moment you get arrested. And what doesn't get dealt with when you're in prison, or even in the county jails, I mean, they have their own stuff, but I mean, you're not dealing with anything, because the behaviors, you're still in a criminal element, so you have to still have that kind of behavior to survive throughout your stay, right? So what behaviors are actually getting dealt with? None of them.
None.
So you may lose weight, you're shredded up, your outside looks great, but your inside is still all sour and broken.
Right.
That trauma is still untreated, and so I feel like the effort needs to happen from pretrial, being linked up with, like, I want to be able to link up with these guys, maybe through prison industry, and be able to work with them, like sending them in questionnaires and stuff like this to kind of like, you're not going to get,
I said, that's great.
You're not.
You see, now if the state partnered with you, a business such as yours, then now they have that opportunity to, have that be provided to them without it coming out of taxpayers' dollars, taxpayers' pockets. So that's the type of solutions that I feel, or those are the type of solutions that I feel like need to be introduced and need to be invested in when it comes to our society, and, rehabilitating those people that may end up in jail for something else. I mean, you have nonviolent offenders, like I said, whether it be drug use, substance use, or a DUI even, where them receiving counseling would benefit them better than going to a county jail. And which seems to me, because I've been there also myself on many occasions, to be a way to condition the individual, the human mind, into thinking that this is an acceptable way of life. And if you're not cultivating any type of strengths that they may have or abilities, then that's not giving them the tools that they need to move on afterwards, after their sentencing. It's just pretty much getting them used to living in jail. And that's why the recidivism rate is extremely high. I believe it's about 30% in some areas, where you got people being released from prison and going right back. I mean, during this panic, you've had the release of violent offenders, rapists, killers, thieves, be released from prison and immediately go right back due to an offense. So how are you really helping these people? How are you really helping the people of the community? Gavin Newsom isn't taking that into accordance. He's more so just looking at the opportunity to make more money off of these prisoners by them returning, and wasting more taxpayers' dollars in the process.
Yeah, I agree. I have one last question for you. It has to do with formerly incarcerated people like myself, and not being able to become law enforcement or anything like that. Because in my opinion, if you had people like myself who actually know how to interact and deal with the criminal element of society, we are better prepared and better equipped mentally to be able to handle those situations because we kind of know, you know what I mean? We know
Right.
the element. I don't think that, I think that there needs to be a change in that. You know what I mean? Not saying, yeah, you just get out of prison and you go be a cop. But I mean, if you've gotten out of prison and you've like become a, you know, constructive member of society and you paid your debts,
Yeah.
and you know, you've got like 15, 20 years, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to.
Yeah,
you have something that most people don't.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I believe that, again, people such as yourself, ex-gang members, ex-offenders that have spent time in jail for a certain amount of period would be better better equipped mentally, physically, to deal with those individuals. And I definitely believe that, again, that should be supported and invested in by the community. I also feel like our police force could train other people in the community, ex-felons, ex-gang members, even current gang members, on training them to be community officers. And
They're like a liaison.
Exactly. Create a
community
police
liaison.
force. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they train them, if they're getting trained by these professionals that we're paying with our tax dollars to provide that service in the community, the way for them to gain some extra income for themselves, whether it be overtime or getting involved in these training sessions for people of the community, then it would be an all-around benefit to society. But I definitely feel like our policing model needs to be changed to where there is more community involvement, whether it be a armed militia, or even, as I said to you before, the development of a community police force where these individuals, ex-gang members or whatever the case may be, are now receiving weapons training from highly trained professionals and are able to provide protection for their neighborhoods. I mean, if you speak with a gang member, that's what they want to say. That's what they tend to say. I'm carrying a gun because I want to protect myself and the people in my family, my friends, my family, my neighbors, and protect our hood. Give them that ability to do so, by recognizing their constitutional right to bear arms. Give them that ability to do so by training them and letting them know how to recognize, someone that may be suspected of criminal activity. I mean, now it gives them that pathway to take on that profession later on in life. But I definitely believe there needs to be a removal of the I guess, policies that exist that prevent felons, ex-felons, from being able to pursue any career, whether it be law enforcement or in the cannabis industry. You can't have a cannabis club or a dispensary if you're involved or had been involved in some sort of criminal activity. And I definitely think that stifles innovation as well. We all should have the freedom to have the freedom to provide for ourselves and earn a living. Nothing should be put in place to prevent that, and all of those barriers should be removed.
I agree. I am I make excellent edibles. Chocolate, mint chocolate,
All
gummies,
right.
all of that stuff, man. And it's like I can't turn that into a business because I'm a felon.
Yeah, and that's because you got to get a license, to sell that. Remove the licensure. Now you can sell out of your garage. Less regulation creates more innovation, and it creates a safer environment for everyone. You're able to flourish. You're able to be a contributing member of society and our economy by generating wealth for yourself and for others. You may grow to the point where you start employing people. Now you're a job creator. Government doesn't create jobs. I don't know why people think they do, but if they ever create a job, It's paid for by taxpayers. So, would you rather have that job be created and that individual be paid for by a private company or a private industry versus the public? Public employees are already overpaid. The governor gets paid nearly $200,000 a year. I'm going to be cutting that salary in half. So if you vote Wildstar for governor, I'll do the job for half the price, even less. And I will be maximizing salaries for all state employees. So you won't be getting a 6-figure salary working for the state. You'll have to move to another state if you want that amount of money. Doing so, serving the public, you should want to do so. It should be an honor to do so, and it should be a privilege to do so. And it shouldn't take you getting paid an exorbitant amount of money to represent the people of the public, especially when there's people in that area that don't get paid that much just working their 9 to 5. I mean, the median income here in Fresno is about $30,000, $29,000 a year. Yet we have public officials getting paid $250,000 a year, 200 plus public officials getting paid $250,000 a year. And that needs to change. I'm pretty sure it's even higher on the state level. And that's why, again, we'll be reviewing and repealing.
Yeah, I think one of the hugest problems for politicians is that they are so far removed from the average American and their struggles.
Right.
And if you brought them a little bit closer in line with, us, they may be more inclined to want to do more instead of less.
They'd be more appreciative of that position that was given to them. We can easily take it away. We got to either fire their ass by, doing what we're doing with Gavin Newsom and get them recalled, or, we can just simply lower their paychecks because we paid their salaries with our tax dollars.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, I enjoyed the conversation. Sorry, I fumbled around a little bit there.
Oh, no, not at all.
In there, I just couldn't talk for some reason.
Happens to me all the time too,
I couldn't. I had it on my, I have all these things going through my head, and I'm like, I don't have a pad to write down what I'm thinking, so I'm just like, I got stuck there for a second.
That's why I said sometimes you just got to spit it out, get those thoughts out your mouth, get the marbles out your mouth, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, hey, man, I want to thank you for coming on the show, giving me your time today to hang out and get to know you a little bit better. I wish you all the luck in your journey, and who knows, we may run across each other in something, because I know that Shankar and those guys are definitely really passionate about what they're doing, and
yes.
I think they like the fact that I'm of the same kind of mind, and I have a show too, and I'm able to, when I hear good stuff, I definitely want to be able to pass that on to other people, maybe in my audience or other places.
Right.
My goal these days is more or less to amplify anybody's signal who wants to cancel corruption and make a change.
That's me. Yeah, indeed. I appreciate you for being committed to the cause because, like I said, it's a lot of censorship, and especially when you're running as someone that is anti-establishment, you're not invited in by, media on the left and on the right. So I appreciate, community journalists as yourself giving me an opportunity to be heard and not silenced. And hopefully people will support me. Visit my website, wildstar2022.com. I am in need of donations. I'm not funded by these big organizations, so I need funding from people like you. And I'm also in need of volunteers, some bodies, some boots on the ground. So come join me at wildstar2022.com. All
right, brother. I appreciate it, and thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll be talking again.
Absolutely. You take care until then. Long live liberty.
Brother. Bye.
Peace.